Howdy y'all, Fast Force 289. So tonight we're going to begin the process in order to install the floor shifter in my car. Right now I got the column shift. I'm going to convert it to a floor shift car. And so let's get started. Okay, so once you remove both front seats, you can remove your door seal plates. So, and your kick panels, you got to remove the 6 screws to hold the door seal plate down. Then you can remove the kick panel. I already did the other side. So let's get to work on this side now. All right, we got the carpet pulled back, and yeah. So here's what happened. This is what you should not do. Here's a good example. We have somebody at some point in time. The floorboards are rusted out in this car slightly. Not the worst that I've ever seen, but yes, they do need repairs. And luckily, really, from what I can see so far, it's only the front ones. The back ones are still pretty solid, so not a big deal. The front ones need patching, not a big deal. I can patch that later. But somebody put this piece of metal all the way across the floorboard because the floorboards are slightly rusted out. So this is their fix, you know. And this is fine. I've seen this kind of work before. Not like this, I mean, but I've seen people take metal and rivet or screw down metal to the floorboard, and that's fine, you know. But the problem here is, let me show y'all what I'm talking about here. The problem we got here is, if you look, it's running all the way across. If it wasn't running all the way across, then I wouldn't worry about it. I would just leave it in place. But see, I got to remove it because my transmission tunnel hump has to go here. So yeah. Alright, so real quick while we're here, I figure I'll show you how to drill out a rivet. So if you come across your car, somebody has installed patch panels or whatever, what have you, or if you installed something with a rivet and you want to get it out, well, here's how you do it. You want to get a drill bit that's about the same size as your rivet, like that. And you just want to get it right there in the center of that hole. Hold it there tight. Make sure you got a good sharp drill bit. Put some pressure on it. And just drill it out. Just like that. If it starts to turn on you like you seen that one did, you kind of want to just walk the drill bit around a little bit. It'll bite, it'll grab, bam, it's out. Simple as that. When you're doing rivets, if for some reason this should happen to you, you can wait till you're done completely drilling the rivets out. But what I do is I like to keep a pair of pliers with me on hand, and I'll grab that in the jaws of the pliers and just back the drill out, and it comes right out. Good to go. Alrighty guys, so here's what we're dealing with. The floorboards are pretty bad. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, but I've still seen worse. I mean, this is bad, no doubt. I mean, it's kind of weak, and it's a little worse here than I thought it would be. So when I get ready to put the carpet back down, I'm probably going to take a piece of that. I mean, I'm not putting that whole piece of metal back in here, but because they're really not that bad all in all. Like, I've seen worse floorboards. I've seen floorboards you could flintstone, you know what I mean? They're pretty solid. It does have rust up here, obviously, a little bit up there, and this is the worst part on this side, no doubt about it. So what I'm going to do is probably take a piece of that metal and cut out and form it around this bend here and flatten it out, and I'll pop me a few screws. Oh, excuse me. Pop me a few screws in here for that, and then I'll come up here and pop a few screws in here just to reinforce it for the time being, you know, and drill my hole out for the seat and whatnot, you know, do all that. But this is definitely the worst of it. The entire floor, this is the worst, which is why I don't get why they put an entire patch, because it's really not that bad. It's dirty. I'm about to clean it up, but yeah, this is definitely the worst. Like I said, I'll put a patch in here for that, but not a big deal, you know. Whereas if we walk around to the other side, look at this one. Again, it's the same thing. This side ain't as bad, but it's the same thing. It's rusted out here. There's some rust here where it looks like they fixed with, I don't know, Bondo or something, you know, that didn't really, I'm I don't know what the hell that is. Let me clean all this out and get rid of it, vacuum all that out. And I may cut a patch to screw up in here too and whatever. And this is where apparently they beat the floorboard in from the other side to put that FMX transmission in here. And then where the shifter goes, they also dented it a little bit. So, but that was not a big deal because that'll be covered up with this plus with the carpet. And then when I get the console in here, it'll all be covered up. That's not a big deal. The floorboards definitely need to be changed, but trust me, I've seen worse. They're really not that bad, all things considered. So I'm gonna get this cleaned up, and then we'll be back with the next step. Alrighty, y'all. So here's what I got so far. I got the piece mocked up in here. I got it screwed down some sheet metal screws, self-tapping screws, and got it sturdy in place where I believe it's close. If it ain't exactly perfect where it should be, it's damn close. Trust me. I've looked at several pictures online of cars that came factory with these, and what you know, your best bet to do, what I did, is like look at the hole and look at these ribs in the floorboard and see about how far apart they are, you know, from where they are. First, you can slide this up in place, kind of get it to where it feels, where it seems like it should go. Now keep in mind, if you order a new one like I did, these new reproduction parts ain't going to be an exact 100% exact perfect fit like factory. So I'm keep that in mind as well. But look at the holes and how far apart from the ribbing in the floor it is. Like in the pictures, this hole was closer to this side than this side, but not, you know, it weren't in the center. It was closer to one side than the other, but still not really one side to the other. And same thing here. This hole is closer to that, and then you just keep. That's what I did. I went based off them holes, and then you want to eyeball kind of the best you can, like line up the car, you know, and try to get these level, you know. One thing I might check is take like a torpedo level and put up here, which is going to be kind of hard to check inside the car like this, because unless the car is 100% level sitting in the garage like this, then this, you know, won't be, you know what I mean. But that's what you want to do. And this has an adjustment. Well, not this, rather the shifter has adjustment. It has oblong holes where it bolts down to the tunnel here. So if you don't get this in the exact 100% perfect spot, you can move the shifter forward and back to compensate for it a little bit. Especially if you got like console, you can adjust it to get the console to line up. Plus the linkage has a slot, so you can adjust the linkage to make it work however you need to. And so yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. Or yeah, that's how that works. And then what I'm gonna do is put the shifter in here and everything, get it all mocked up when I get the console. I don't have a console right now, but when I get one, I can put it in here and line up if I have to, and come back in here and loosen these screws and adjust the shifter to make the console fit. So side to side, you gotta take your time. Take your time on this. Make sure it fits. So you can make sure that it fits to the floor snug. You know, like I think mine had just a very slight gap, which, like I said, this reproduction part, it's typical to find that kind of stuff, and I had to kind of bend it a little bit to form it in place a little bit, little stuff like that. And my people, whoever had this car, they beat the hell out of the floor in it. So like this is all dented down because there's supposed to be a hole right here, which I don't even need to drill a hole now because it's so far down that the bolt will just go right through to bolt the shifter down. But if yours isn't bent down and shit, it'll be rounded, which might make it a little bit easier to fit. But I had to kind of put mine here the best I could. I went ahead and marked out the hole. I'm going to cut it. I might have to end up cutting this whole piece out in the floor underneath this. But I'm going to start out with something small, put the shifter down in the hole, fit it, and see how it looks. And then if I have to, I'll cut it some more. You never want to cut too much at one time. Use the old carpentry adage, measure twice, cut once. So in this case, just like dry fit and test. Test fit it and cut it as you need. So test fit it if you need to. If the linkage is hitting or something, then trim a little bit more metal off. And then test fit again. If you have to trim it again. But you don't want to cut too much because you have a lot of playroom here. I mean, look how much room that you have to play with cutting this stuff out. I mean, you have a good bit amount of room. You get all the way up to these bolt holes, but I wouldn't recommend. I want to keep the hole as small as possible. That way, it don't weaken the structure anymore. It keeps it solid, And this is going to help strengthen it up too. And also, with these screws, I got these screws from Harbor Freight. I just got a whole pack of them. What I would recommend, I don't know if I'm going to leave these in here, because the problem with these screws is they want to back out. They don't stay tight. So I don't know if I'm going to take these out and use like a bigger just sheet metal screw to hold it, or I might rivet it in place. I might just go get some rivets and rivet. Once I get this where I want it, rivet it in place, and then I don't have to worry about them backing out and this coming loose. So we'll see as I go along. I was going to leave these in it originally, but I don't know about this now. I might change that up. I don't know yet, but we'll see. So I'm gonna get this. I'm gonna pull this back off. Cut the hole out. We'll test fit the shifter, see how it looks, and go from there. Okay, so real quick, I want to show you what I'm using. I'm using what they call a sheet metal nibbler, which is like a little piece in there. It's a piece of metal and a cylinder that just goes up and down with like a cutout on it to cut the metal. The great thing about this, the reason why I chose this method, because you can use a cut-off wheel and a saw, but the problem is a saw is going to leave metal shavings. A cut-off wheel is going to throw sparks. Well, I don't want to throw sparks in my car. My carpet's sitting here. I got the carpet rolled back. The good thing about this, you have no sparks and no real metal shavings. You probably have a little fine ones, but nothing real major. And it cuts through it like butter. Now, the one thing you do have to work this thing kind of back and forth a little bit to get it to go. But I'm going to show you real quick just how easy this thing works. This one's a pneumatic one to hook up to your air compressor, but they also make some to hook up to your drill, so you can chuck it in your drill and hold it. It's got a handle on it, and you can use it to go around and cut your metal out too. But watch how easy this cuts this metal. And then you gotta back it up. And that's really all there is to it. You just gotta kind of work at it, work it back and forth, draw your line out and trace the line with it. That's as simple as that. It's easy. Then you can go back and clean your hole up, the sharp edges and all, with a file and some sandpaper. But it's that simple. I'd look into getting one if y'all want to do sheet metal work. That's good for thin sheet metal. Obviously, can't cut nothing super thick, but this is perfect for this. I'd look into getting one. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I went ahead and cut the hole. Here's what we got so far. The hole's not big enough, which was probably pretty obvious from the start. But like I said, I want to take a little bit at a time here. So I cut this hole out, get this out. And I think what's amazing, I didn't realize the tail shaft, the end tail shaft is right here. That's pretty amazing. That's pretty crazy to think. The tail shaft's right there. But anyway, what I'm doing is I'm not bolting this down every time. I'm just kind of setting it up there roughly, lining up my front hole here, which is the one I started with when I bolted this down. I started here and kind of just went back and forth a little bit and kind of picked around and then worked my way around, but kind of went back and forth a little bit. So I lined up this hole to kind of get an idea where I want. These holes, I'm not going to come back any further because the tail shaft being here, if you get a bad seal, obviously this is going to block it, but I don't want oil slinging up in here and shit, getting on my floorboard. So I'm not going to cut back any further, I don't think. Matter of fact, I could have stayed up a little bit more than what I am now. But what I'm doing is, because I got it even there, but there's enough room. You see these screw holes are for the rubber grommet that goes in here to seal your shifter up, which I don't have one right now. I got to find one, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But right here I have no room for that screw to go into. It's almost touching right there. Barely any room here, So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this hole up a little bit, but probably not touch this one because I got room there and I have room here. So I'm probably not going to touch those. But what I got to do is when you look at the shifter, it cuts out this way. So I'm going to have to cut this hole down some and kind of come out because the shifter linkage kind of goes at an angle. And that's why, so you are going to have to cut this out right now. So you are going to have to cut this out. But that's fine, not a big deal. That's what I'm gonna do. What I'm gonna do is I'm kind of gonna reference, like I keep putting it back and taking it away, keep looking. I'll mark a little bit, I'll put it back, I'll look at it, take it away, mark it, If I'm looking at my bolt holes on this side, and I go on this side with the bolt holes, and let's say, like I want to come in about an inch or so, let's say, or even a good reference is if you look at these ribs over here, if you look at the floor ribs, that's probably a good spot to stop. You probably don't want to cut into them. I probably would come up a little bit above that and just stop. That's probably what I would do. That's probably what I'm going to end up doing here, because that seems like a good spot. Because that's your structure of your floorboard. You don't want to really cut into that if you can help it. So that's probably what I'm going to do, just kind of follow this line straight down and maybe come about, I don't know, 1/2 inch to 1 inch from those ribs and mark it along the line here with my bolt holes and just stop it up here somewhere and kind of just cut back on it. I'm going to open this hole up a little bit bigger. I'm going to come in here, open this up a little bit more. Now I have more room to work on everything. Let's see how it works. Alrighty, y'all, this is what I got so far. So I did have to cut the hole out bigger. I'm about to put the shifter in place roughly and get underneath the car to make sure everything lines up properly. Alright, here's a rough mock-up of what I got. I just set the transmission tunnel adapter piece in place and put the shifter on top. And now we're going to crawl up underneath the car with the linkage and see how everything lines up. Alright, so when you get this far, I went ahead and put the shifter and all up there and make sure everything was going to clear, and it's fine. It's perfect. I could make the hole just a little bit bigger if I wanted to, but there's no reason to, because everything clears fine. The linkage is fine. If I was going to trim anything, it'd be right here, because even though the linkage clears, it's not real close, but it's, you know, maybe not quite as much room as is factory, but it'll clear, you know. But the reason why I don't want to go too far is because of this right here. This is still good metal. As much good metal, I want to have as much good metal as I possibly can around the hole, and the same thing for up here. Even though I think that's just more surface rust, still I don't want to go too close. So, you know, and also, like I said, I don't want to cut into these ribs. This is your structural part of the floorboard. So. And but yeah, once you get this far, you want to take you a flat file. And I've already done this edge. I cleaned it up, went over it, and then you want a rat tail file or round file for these edges here. So you can get them here, clean them up the way you need to. And then a very rough grit sandpaper. I think this is 60 grit, I believe. No, 80 grit. Okay, 80 grit. And you want to go around and just clean the edges up where they're nice and smooth, no burrs. And even though you're not going to see it, you know, me, I like having things nice and clean. And if I ever have to work on it, I don't want to get cut on it later. So, you know, and this hole, even though you could say it's not cut perfectly, like this right here, how this kind of is like straight there. It don't look like because it's bent, but it's straight there, and then it kind of kicks back a little bit. Well, I did that for the shifter. The reason why I don't want to cut this back any further, like I said before, is just right there, and that kind of gives kind of like a shield for that seal. If it ever starts to leak and sling fluid, it'll kind of help keep fluid from coming, you know, inside the car, you know, with the hole there, because it can sling up, you know. Even though that piece is going to be in there as a cover, that just kind of acts as a little extra shield, which is why I didn't want to cut that back. I could cut it back more. I could have came back further, because that's where the holes are right there. So I got all this room, but I didn't want to cut it back that far. But yeah, I'm going to get this cleaned up and then see how it looks all put together. Alrighty guys, so to give you a quick rundown of what it looks like underneath the car, this is what it looks like. I already started riveting in the transmission hump, and I'll show you that up top in a minute. I want to show you how it looks from underneath. This is it. This is the hole I cut out, and that's obviously the adapter tunnel piece. Here's your linkage. I could have cut more metal out over here. Let's see if I can get a good view of it. Let's see. If you look right here, it's close. Let's see here. Come on, focus. There we go. It's close to touching here, but it's not touching. There is room, and that's only when it's in park. When it's in drive, which is whenever it's further forward, like that. Like that's in drive. There's plenty of room. I can put my finger in there just about. So there's plenty of room, so there won't be no vibrations and stuff like that. So it's fine. There's plenty of room up here, as you can see. Like it looks good. Yeah, it looks good. So we'll get back up top, and I'm gonna remove this shifter so I can get to the take the shifter back out to get to the top bolt hole. Plus I need to cut the hole in the carpet. So we'll get back up top and I'll show you what's going on up there now. This is what it looks like from up top. As you can see, I went ahead and started riveting this in. What I did was I used strip caulk for underneath the transmission tunnel piece here, just to kind of help seal it to the car better. Plus it ain't direct metal to metal contact that way, but it helps seal it, you know, keeps any water or anything out. Now as far as this, there's nothing here, you know, but you know, anything's better than nothing, so I just put it around the edges. But yeah, it turned out real nice. I still have to do this screw here, which I will show y'all how to use a rivet gun in case you never used one, and how that works. And then I got the front one right there, which I could get without taking the shifter out, but I got to remove the shifter anyway to get the carpet in here. So I put the carpet over the hole so I can figure out, you know, where to cut it and all that. So I got to remove it anyway, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, looks good. Works as if it, I just disconnected it, but it works as if it should, and looks good. Alright, so on these shifters here, there's 3 bolts or screws that holds the shifter in. You have one back here, you have the one right there, and then one on the opposite side. And so we're just going to remove them 3 screws, pull the shifter out, and that way I can get in here and cut the carpet out. Okay, so I'm going to go through and show you how to use a rivet gun if you're wanting to do this process. You can screw these down and bolt it, but these sheet metal screws don't really hold very well, so that's why I'm going to rivet it down. That way I know it ain't moving anywhere. So what I did is, I went to Harbor Freight, and I got me a pack of rivets. They're 1/4 by 1/2 inch. And in case you wonder what that means that this piece is 1/4 of an inch wide, and the head is 1/2 inch wide. So I got them. And you're gonna need a rivet gun. I had to use my bigger rivet gun for these because of the size of the shaft, the shank. So you're gonna need a rivet gun that'll hold this size rod, and you're gonna need a drill bit as well to drill your hole out to the proper size. Okay, so once you what I like to do is go one at a time. So I had all my screws in here. I take one screw out, put a rivet in, then take another screw out, put a rivet in, take another screw out, and so on and so forth. So when you get here and you take the screw out, you're going to need a drill bit the same size as your rivet. In this case, it's a 1/4 inch drill bit. So you're going to want to drill out your hole to the right size. And also, if you're in my situation like I am, or if you're in the same situation like I am, where you have a transmission underneath here, now obviously this will clear because this is where the drive shaft is, plenty of room. But when you're drilling through, make sure you don't hit your transmission, you know, real hard. You don't want to accidentally, you know, bump into it and possibly crack it or whatever, or damage it anyway. So once you drill your hole out, you want to grab your rivet and put it in the slot there. What we're going to do is take your rivet gun. You want to open it up all the way like this. Hard to kind of see, but you open it up, and this is how it works. You just open it and close it, and that's what you do. You keep opening it and closing it. Anyway, so to show you how it works, put it down here on the rivet. We're going to open it up all the way, put it down here like that. Kind of push down on it so you get a good seat on the middle, and start closing the handles up. And then you open it, and you hear it drop down like that. Every time you open it, it's going to drop down and grab another bite with the teeth. You squeeze it, open it up, and it drops down again. Open it up, squeeze it, and you keep doing that over and over again until you hear it pop. And you'll know when you're done because it'll make a loud popping noise and it'll break off just like that. And that's all there is to it. It's easy as that. You do that all the way around to all your holes, and it's fastened, it's solid as a rock, it's not going anywhere, and you're good to go. Yeah, I figured I'd just show you a bigger picture of what I'm talking about, how this works. So open your jaws up, put your rivet in the hole. Oh, if you get there you go, just like that. Push down on it, close them up, open them, drops down. Just like that. And make sure you unload your scrap piece out of there, get that out of there. Done deal. Alrighty, so I've got the shifter installed and put back together and everything. If you're doing what I'm doing and you're taking your steering column shifter, your steering column out, the steering column shift out, and you're putting a floor shifter in, you got to remove the linkage for the steering column. And what it is on these Fairlanes, you have this bracket here where this bolts into. It's got studs or 9/16 nuts. It bolts in here. This is the same place that your stabilizer bar for a manual would also bolt in. And then if you look, it goes over just like the manual transmissions, and this screws into the block of the motor. So you take them two nuts off. I've already took them out, and I've already loosened this. You take that out, and then this comes off. It's also hooked up above the, I can't think, above the frame in the engine bay, which we have to go up top and disconnect that. But this down here is simple. You disconnect your rod from the transmission, obviously. Two bolts here, that one bolt there, and that's all you gotta do down here. And we're done. And we'll go up top and take a look at that. Now we're up top in the engine bay, and as you can see, the only thing we have left holding it is right there. I'm going to try to use this pry bar to pry it. It's just a bushing, it's a rubber bushing right there that is pressed into, and it just pops in and out. So I'm going to just take this pry bar here and try to pry on it to break that loose. If you have power brakes, this could probably potentially be a problem for you, maybe, on these cars, because there's not much room. And I don't have much room now as it is, but I'm going to try not to bend my linkage for it either. And it's going to be a tight fit, but I got to get it out of here somehow. And I'm probably going to have to work on this off camera to figure this out, potentially, because it's a pretty damn tight fit up in here. I'm trying to... Oh, maybe I have it. There we go, just like that. And I actually make a special tool for that. The problem is, I do have the tool. The problem is that it will not fit in here. There's not enough room between the firewall and that lever for it to fit. So you kind of have to use the pry bar. And if you were going to put that back in there, I'm going to tell you right now, it probably wouldn't be very easy to do. So, and there we have it. It's out. And that's that bracket I was telling you about with the studs on it. This is that piece here, and it just pivots in that right there. That's all it does. It just pivots right there. And then of course, this is what I was talking about in that bushing where you got to pry it out. You see how it's made, how it just squeezes in there, and that bushing has like a little lip inside of it that grabs in there, and that's it. It's just a rubber bushing for that to work back and forth on. See, it's easy as that. Alrighty guys, and we are done. Everything's put back together. As you can see, I got my carpet laid down, the hole in the carpet's cut out, my seats are reinstalled, and let's take a look at what we got. Of course, you know, because you can see all of this, I don't have a console or nothing yet, and also I still got to get the rubber gasket for down here. You can see the floor. But that is how you install the shifter. This is how you install the transmission hump and the shifter in the car, and to get it in the right spot. And if you look, you see it's pretty much lined up with the center of the car, pretty much just like it's supposed to be, and it's offset to. When you look at pictures, this is always offset to the cigarette lighter if you don't have air conditioning, because if you have air conditioning, this moves over here. But anyway, and also if you look at the seats, sorry, if you look in between the seats, It's supposed to be offset more to the driver's side than the passenger side because the console comes up through here, and this is offset to the left. So now these are adjustable front to back. They have slots, as I've shown before. Let's see. You can see that there's a slot in there, so it's adjustable with that screw. Now it's got the carpet pulled up, kind of covering it the best I can for now, but that's how you install it. And once I get the console, I will show you how to install that as well, obviously. But it looks good. It works like it's supposed to. There's drive, second, first. No binding. Works perfect. And looks good. Alright guys, so it looks good. I think it turned out very well. I'm going to split this video up into a two-part video because there's a lot. This video is already pretty long. Like, it's going to be like, I think it's like 35 minutes or so. So it's already going to be a good long video as it is. I was going to do the steering column change and all that in this one video, but it's too long. So I don't want like an hour-long video of this. I like to break it up into two parts. So the next video, I will show me changing the steering column and whatnot and getting that hooked up. I still got to paint the steering column and all that, clean it up, and I'll put that in that video. And hopefully by then, when I get ready to do that, I'll have my console as well too, because I'm in the process of trying to get a console for this car. They're hard to find. They don't reproduce it. It's one of those things that you gotta try to find an original and find an automatic as well. You know, one for an automatic. So, but I'm trying to do that now, and that'll be in the next video, part 2 to this. But this will show you how to install the shifter in your car if you are wanting to change to a floor shifter. You know, then, you know, the steering column, of course, you change that later. But as far as installing the shifter in the car, this is how you do it. Hope this video was helpful, and I hope you enjoyed it. If there's any questions, comments, or concerns, leave them down below. I'd love to hear your comments. And as always, if you've done this, let me know how yours turned out. And if there's if there's something you've seen me do that maybe you thought I should have done differently, let me know. Comment down below. And also, I'm on Instagram. So if you want to follow me on Instagram at fastforwards289, same as my YouTube name, you can follow me there. Love to see you on there as well. And thanks for watching as always, and y'all have a good night.